Stop looking at me like that, Forest Dragon. I know the Wood Elves are releasing tomorrow. What's going on, guys? Indie Pride here, and I thought that I could maybe make the wait a little bit easier for you all, or worse, depending on how you want to look at it, by showing off a replay between myself and Oakley High Def from the realm of the Wood Elves DLC. I am playing as the Wood Elves with a female Glade Lord on a terror-inducing Forest Dragon, who is unique for her Prey of Anathrema ability, which freezes an enemy unit in place for 30 seconds and lowers their missile resistance by 22%. As with all Glade Lords, she has the Arrow of Kurnus magic missile ability, which operates independently of the winds of magic, and can be great for dropping models off enemy cavalry or monstrous infantry from extreme range. Arrow of Kurnus is going to smack a couple of Minotaurs in the face and send them flying right off the bat, and she has a pretty powerful range attack in the form of a 400 missile damage bow as well. Really like the Glade Lord, think she has a ton of utility as a combat, ranged, and flying lord, and I bet you will see her a lot in multiplayer. This is the Great Eagle on Overwatch, and I have 4 Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts, which will be your go-to missile unit. Flaming, magical, and armor-piercing arrows all rolled into one glorious package. Eternal Guard with shields, the mainstay melee force for the Wood Elves. Hold the line with armor-piercing and a bonus versus large, and Treekin, monstrous infantry to provide my main line with some much-needed staying power. And in the back, we have the Branchwraith, which I think is going to end up being one of my favorite hero units in the game. They are crazy. So, besides having an absolutely gorgeous model with some unfortunate Bretonnian corpse chilling on her back, she has access to spells from the Lore of Life and Lore of Shadows, can buff every allied unit map-wide with 6% movement speed, and can heal allies in an area of effect with Earthblood. So, she also has 330 weapon strength, so can get stuck into melee pretty decently as well. Across the way, my opponent is Oakley High Def from THFE Productions, rocking with Morghur the Shadowgave, the Corruptor and Spawn of Chaos, who I think will be the best Lord choice for the Beastmen once this patch goes live. Talk about him in a second, but he's hiding in a bush for now. But we'll look at the Harpies, who will finally be giving the Beastmen some staple units for aerial combat. They're squishy as hell with only 15 armor, but are pretty great for harassing and outright killing enemy skirmishers for 600 gold. So I'll definitely have to be cautious about those. And as my Glade Lord moves up to skirmish and my Starfire Shafts, let it rip. Let's talk about Morghur for a second. So he can summon Chaos Spawn 4 times during the course of a battle, twice with a normal summoning spell with the Stave of Ruin as corruption item, and twice with a direct damage spell, Spirit Essence of Chaos, which effectively insta-kills an enemy unit under 20% HP. Which, in a game like Total War Warhammer, where units frequently cycle back into combat with very low HP and low unit models, is very, very powerful. Of course, you're getting a full-strength unit of monstrous infantry alongside it as well. We have Centigors with great weapons on the flank, trying to get around. I have Wild Riders nearby, hiding in the woods. He doesn't know about them yet. And Oakley was trying to flank around behind me, but he's quickly going to find out he has nowhere to run. But in the front, while I was focusing on getting my Wild Riders into an ambush position, I am going to lose micro on my Glade Guard for a second here. We'll have to quickly pull them back. They are in the cover of the trees, so the Flyers won't do as much damage as they normally would. Most units get a combat debuff in the woods, I believe, but he's going to have to chase off my archers, and I will run them away. Now, the Centigors realize they're in a very bad position now. Great Eagle going to land in front of them, and my Wild Riders will spring their ambush. So, they have 46 charge bonus, they have Frenzy, they have some really nice combat stats, but they are not quite the charge powerhouses that they were in the tabletop. With that said, they are still going to rip up the Centigors, because I have Fear causing Great Eagle, buffing them up not to charge in from the rear, and I have Treekin coming into support. So we will quickly overrun these Centigors with great weapons, get them off the field, rip them apart in melee combat, and win the fight out on that flank. In the center, my Glade Guard are pulling back. Starfire Shafts are about to let it rip into the very low armor of the Beastmen, but they have a lot of mobility on the field. They have a Razor Gourd Chariot, they have Minotaurs. It's going to be pretty tough to hold a line against all this mobility. Let's get a good look at the Shadowgave. His right arm severely corrupted by that chaotic nature. Really intimidating and awesome looking model for him. But I should note that the direct damage Chaos Spawn summon spell does not work on enemy heroes or lords, so that kind of avoids some cheesing there. But summoning has been reworked in this patch so that units consistently lose HP after being summoned. I think it's about 50 to 60 HP per second from what I've gathered so far. But the trade-off is that the caps on how many units you can summon have been raised pretty much across the board. For example, you can now summon Manticores 2 times, or Skeletons or Zombies 7 times. So that is pretty cool. Over on the right flank, I'm going to unleash the Arrow of Kurnus into a group of Centigors as they're moving up. I'm going to lose some FPS as we get that shot in there. And then I'm going to drop the Prey of Anathrema ability, which will freeze them in place, let my Treekin come and catch up. The monstrous infantry should do some damage to them, but more than that, gonna unleash 2 full volleys of Starfire shafts into these Centigors and watch them drop. Beautiful. That is what a Net of Avantok ability can do for you. Completely stop the charge of an enemy cav unit, and I will shred them in seconds. So that was really fun. Blade Lord is in combat now, beating up on some Minotaurs and some Ungor Raiders, and they are trying to push through and get at my skirmishers. The Chariot, the Razor Gore Chariot, is running roughshod through my back lines, being utilized very effectively by Oakley right now, pulling through a bunch of my archers. Protecting them is going to be really hard. There are Harpies back there too. Thankfully, I have my Treekin to maybe tie down those Chariots or the Harpies and protect some of my skirmishers, but it's definitely going to be very difficult to protect them when there are so many fast units on the field. Getting ready to send my Wild Riders around the flank into the Ungor Archers, and then hopefully start getting some powerful hammer and anvils off. They have a gorgeous model, and they have been really fun for me so far. I've enjoyed using them. I do wish they had a higher charge bonus, though. I think that they should be maybe even a little bit squishier, but just have a devastating charge to more reflect how they were on the tabletop. But that said, though, they're still a lot of fun. Razor Gore Chariot is still just being an absolute terror right now. Oakley's using it very well, and they were buffed in the last patch to be able to pull through enemy units easier and just in general get better melee effectiveness. Harpies are really pissing me off, doing exactly what they're meant to do, harass my skirmishers, and I'm just trying to tie down everything so that I can protect what is left of my skirmishers. My main line is doing decently well. The Treekin are very tanky. Chaos Spawn with that pure chaotic energy crackling around them. I love that red lightning effect. It's so cool. But the Treekin are holding the line very well against those Ungor Spears and the Summon Chaos Spawn. Morghur the Shadowgave is also moving up, trying to get into melee combat. He has regeneration and significantly more HP than a typical Beast Lord. So in my experience with all of the stuff that I've seen thus far, he's one of the tankiest Lord characters in the game, and probably one of the best Beastmen Lords, probably the best Beastmen Lord. Got a good look at the Branchwraith in the back there. And here come my Wild Riders. So they're going to be going straight into the back of these Ungor Spears and just trying to get them off the field. Make sure that I can run down all these routing units and prevent them from coming back, which is where the Wild Riders really shine because of their incredibly fast move speed. They'll be able to run down and prevent enemy units from cycling back into combat, which will be really important. Gonna get my Glade Lord into the cover of the trees and just fire down with that 400 missile damage bow. Add some support in there. She is at half HP, but I have a potion of toughness and a unbreakable potion on her as well. So she'll be able to get back up to at least 75% HP, which will be nice. Starfire shafts shooting into the back of some Ungors. And my main line is definitely starting to break. But I have the Branchwraith and I have Earthblood, which will allow me to buff them up and increase their HP over time when I cast that spell. Get some regeneration and some health back on my Treekin. Harpies getting destroyed by the Starfire shafts. And there's also a Gorebull kind of rampaging around in the middle of my formation. Wild Riders looking for a target to charge into, and here they come. So Eternal Guard coming back after chasing some Ungor Raiders off the field. And here come the Wild Riders, devastating rear charge into the back of some Ungors. And that is what you love to see. There's nothing more satisfying in a Total War game than getting a massive hammer and anvil, and that should break Oakley's right flank. But my right flank is crumbling. Eternal Guard are not going to be able to hold for too much longer, even with the support from the Starfire shafts coming in and the Glade Lord up top. They will break very soon. Great Eagle is very low HP as well. I cast Prey of Anathrema on Morghur, just prevent him from getting into melee combat, and I'm going to run my Great Eagle away. Now let's focus on the Great Eagle for a second, because he is very low, definitely below 20% HP. You can see Morghur casting something on him, but it's going to, I guess he gets out of range just in time. I didn't notice it the first time, though, so he's just kind of cycling around, looking for something to charge into the rear of. And then Morghur is going to cast Spirit Essence of Chaos, which is going to effectively one-shot my Great Eagle from about 800 HP. Just drop to the ground, plummet smack to the earth, and there come the Chaos Spawn. So yes, you can even summon them on a flying unit, and they are going to be able to charge in and start ripping stuff up in melee. The Beastmen the Chaos Spawn model is so cool looking. They've got like mutated cow heads on them. They're just so awesome. But I am going to focus fire them down with my Starfire shafts. the armor piercing should go a long way in ripping them up, and of course they're losing HP, about 50 to 60 HP per second at the same time, so I'll be able to kill them relatively quickly if they remain tied down. Blade Lord is going to terrify a group of Ungors and will send them all running for the hills, but they will probably cycle back into combat unless my Wild Riders can ride them down. Branchwraith and my Treekin and some Eternal Guard stuck in melee, and I will use the AoE heal Earthblood on them very soon to keep them in the fight and just tank out all that damage. Lore of Life is a very good Lore of Magic from what I can tell so far. Heals very effectively and has some very nice buffs and debuffs as well. Wild Riders prancing through the trees, getting ready to run down these Ungors, and they're doing so much damage to all these routing units, which is really nice to see. Minotaurs are in the back lines. They are going to rip some of my Glade Guard apart, but Prey of Anathrema going to freeze them in place and allow my 2 archers to focus fire on them. And this is why I like bringing 2 archers instead of 1, and why I think the Way Watchers may not be that viable. You can spread out your archers, get 2 of them firing at a single target, and look at those Minotaurs drop. They just got shredded by 2 separate archer units. Then basically the entire unit is going to disappear after only a couple of volleys. They were already hurt, and I am going to back them up with the Glade Lord on the Forest Dragon, but that was really satisfying. So, Way Watchers, when you think about 1,200 gold in a single unit, that is a lot to spend for a single archer that can die very easily to a Minotaur, or even something like a Chaos Warhound. So, I think, at least from what I've played so far, I'd rather just have 2 cost-effective archer units that cost like 600 gold, rather than a very expensive archer unit that is 1,200 gold. Morghur is stuck in combat. My Branchwraith is using Earthblood to increase the HP of all those units. So kind of got a little bit of a Wood Elf Death Star going on right now. But Morghur, with that regeneration and that massive amount of HP compared to a regular Beast Lord, is taking out a bunch of damage in combat over there. Gorebull needs to get under control by Oakley, and has taken some decent amount of damage from my armor-piercing bows. And the Wild Riders are just utterly destroying any unit that breaks from the field. They have paid for themselves many times over at this point, and now it just comes down to tying down this Gorebull, terrifying it with the Forest Dragon, finishing off these Ungors, and seeing if I can kill Morghur the Corruptor and finally take him off the field. But that will not be an easy task. Have my Eternal Guard and my Glade Guard running away because I do not want to send them into melee with that Gorebull. In fact, it's kind of scary to just get a Forest Dragon in there as well. Remember that Forest Dragons are a Tree Spirit unit, so they have 20% physical resistance, but they have less HP when compared to something like other dragons from other races. So they do have that technical ward save, but which helps them a lot when they're in melee combat, but they do have a smaller HP pool. And the same thing goes for Tree Spirits when you compare them to a Giant or something like that. They are going to have a lot less HP, but have that 20% physical resistance. Wanted to prevent Morghur, or the Gorebull, from getting into melee, so I'm going to tie him up with the Prey of Anathrema, and then send in that Magic Missile to hit him in the face. Didn't do that much damage. I feel like the Magic Missile is probably better for Monstrous Infantry, or for, like, damage units than it is for just taking out single entity heroes or lords. Here comes the Forest Dragon. I think I've already popped the Potion of Toughness to start getting that. Yeah, she's already regenerated some of her health back. And now in this blob, the Branchwraith is actually full HP after fighting Morghur for a while just because of Earthblood. So that's pretty impressive in and of itself, and that's what I'm talking about, how she's pretty tanky and pretty powerful in melee for a character that is technically a caster. So she's got a lot of versatility, a lot of utility, which is what I think of when I think of the Wood Elves in Total War Warhammer. But here are some Chaos Spawn getting summoned by Morghur the Corruptor, and they will try to tank out some of this damage and help the Shadowgave finish off my units. Took a lot of damage from that Gorebull in melee combat. Trying to charge in to my archers, but I'm going to block the charge with my Wild Riders. And that is not the engagement you really want Wild Riders to be in, but the Gorebull's already so hurt at this point that I should be able to run it from the field, and then it will just be the Chaos Spawn and Morghur left. I'm taking a command and control in this battle, and on the back of this dragon, rather, I think I should be able to seal the deal. So as she wraps up combat here, let's talk about impressions. I think the Wood Elves are really fun to play, definitely have a unique and very satisfying playstyle. If you like Micro, you're going to love this faction. As with a lot of armies in this game, I think you're going to benefit a lot from bringing numbers. So instead of like one 1200 gold Way Watcher, bring 2 Starfire Glade Guard instead. Instead of 1 Azrai War Spear Dancer, you can bring almost 2 full units of Eternal Guard. In terms of this battle, I think Oakley made a mistake trying to use his early cav action instead of keeping them in reserve until the melee line's engaged and then sprung his attack, because he could have gotten around the flank a lot easier and probably gotten into my archers without a problem. And without my archers, I would have been in serious trouble. My Glade Lord made a huge impact on the battle. My Wild Riders just an obscene amount of kills, many of them on cheap routing units that never made it into melee combat again, which was a really big deal. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Wood Elves, and there will be much more content where that came from very soon. See you guys next time.